Let me make the phone call. Calling Uncle Art. Here we go. It's ringing him. Just waiting for him to pick up. It's accepted. He's got to push 1. Hey, Uncle Art.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm fine too, son. Thank you very much for asking. I appreciate it.
Is this an okay time to chat with you?
Yes, I'm free. I was looking forward to it. I don't know what I can tell the boy, but I didn't have a very colorful time, so
Well,
it'll just be routine, but I'll try to answer what I can for him.
Sure. Well, so Chance is on the line, and I thought I'd give him a chance to introduce himself to you. Chance, maybe tell Uncle Art about yourself a little bit.
Okay. Chance?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Chance?
Yes, sir.
Is this Chance?
Yes, sir.
How are you, son?
Good, sir.
I'm a faraway uncle of yours.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
I understand you want to interview me over something, find out some things. I'll try to help you out as much as I can, but like I told your father, it's not a very colorful thing because I just did what routinely had to be done.
Yeah.
So Chance, why don't you ask him a little bit about? He actually wrote down quite a bit of different questions for you, Uncle Art, and I actually you won't be able to see this, Uncle Art, but I actually have some pictures of you. When I was there last in Kentucky, you shared some pictures with me, and I put them.
I see. Well, you know, my hearing isn't that great, Paul, so I might have a little problem with it.
That's fine. We can just re-ask the question. Does that sound okay to you?
Okay.
All right.
I'll try to help as much as I can, son.
I think we'll be fine. Chance, why don't you go ahead and ask Uncle Art some of your questions?
Okay.
What I'd like to know is what made you join the war, and what year was when you joined it?
What did I do?
What year? What made you want to join the war? Is his question.
Well, I was graduating from high school, and I just felt that I had to do something, and I just when I graduated from St. X in '42, I went ahead and joined up. I thought I had to do my part, and so I stayed in from like August of '42 till December of '45 when I was discharged. So that's the time I spent, and most of it was, all of it was in the Air Force, and I did training at Biloxi, Mississippi. I was in Laredo, Texas. Laredo is down by the border of Louisville, Laredo. And then I took crew training at Tucson, Arizona. And from there, I went over to Italy and served in the 15th Air Force. I was a nose gunner on a B24 Liberator bomber, 4-engine bomber. So we did all our missions out of Italy. So anyway, that got me started in the military. So I just thought I had to do my part, whatever that part was, because we needed people, and I guess what really made me enlist was when in '42, about April, they there was the well, the spirit in America was low at that time because Japan had just bombed Pearl Harbor just a few months before, and they evidently the military thought that the people back home needed a lift of some sort, a spiritual lift, and they there was about 10 or 12 planes that took off from a two-engine. They were two-engine attack planes that took off off of a aircraft carrier and did a little bomb run on Tokyo, and I guess that lit a fuse for me. So I guess that's how I got in, son.
All right. Well, that was interesting. So
Huh?
that was a little interesting. That was nice.
Well, that got it started. So the rest of it was all pretty much routine. That we did 38 missions, and we came back as a crew from Italy before the war was over, and we had signed up to go as a crew on the B-29s that were flying out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So after we got a 30-day leave, we were assigned to the air base at Sioux Falls, and we were training on B-29s at that time. And then several months later, they decided they didn't need us because they dropped a big bomb on the two big bombs in
Japan,
in Japan. So they says, well, we don't need you, so the war will be over soon. So, and they were right, it was not. So I'm kind of glad because we'd have been flying over nothing but water, and I don't swim. So I would have had a terrible time. The other 9 on the crew would be looking after me instead of themselves. So
right.
That was pretty much our story, flying wise.
Chance got some more questions. He's got a whole bunch of questions he has listed for you. So
okay.
Chance.
What you want to ask, Chance?
Well, my next question I would like to ask is, did you ever write letters to your home, or who did you write them to?
Paul, I didn't understand what he asked me.
Yep, Chance, you got to be a lot more louder and crisper. But he was asking if you actually, when you were in the war, did you ever write letters home? And if you did, who'd you write them to?
Write letters?
Yeah, during the war.
Well, of course, naturally, I kept in touch with my mother and father. I usually heard from them at least once a month. And then I did have, I guess what I would call at that time a girlfriend back here in Louisville, and I wrote her several times. And but when I came back from overseas, I start dating another girl, and we ended up getting married in 1947. So is she the one that has the
that would be 95 today? I think he had a birthday right? She had a birthday today?
Who's got a birthday?
I think your wife has a birthday today. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tina was telling me.
Yes, my first wife, Alberta. His birthday would have been today, and she would have turned 95 today.
That's awesome.
But she died. Paul Paul didn't even.
No,
You didn't even know her, Paul. I
I
don't
didn't.
think so.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, and then I had 4 children with Alberta, and then after when she died in '68, I remarried and had one son. And Paul, you knew him as Chris.
Yep, Chris. Yep.
Yes. So,
Very cool.
and then we stayed married for 35 years, and then she died, and I remarried. And as a matter of fact, when your grandma had her 75th birthday, I came out there and visited with her,
Yes.
and she didn't know I was she didn't know that I came to help celebrate her 75th birthday. So she
Right.
showed me around Houston a little bit.
Yeah. You mean my
And,
mom? My mom. You mean my mom?
Your mom, yes,
Yeah, my
yes.
75th. Not my grandma, my mom.
And I think somebody must have said something, and I says, "Oh, I know it was Matt said, are you hitting on my mama?" And I says, "No, but look
That's
at
my
it this
brother's
way, she
wife.
wouldn't have to change her name."
That's funny. That's so
But
funny.
anyway, what
Chance, you
else
got
you know?
what other questions you got, Chance?
Well, since today is Memorial Day, do you recall any? Do you recall many of your comrade names or names you want to honor on this Memorial Day? Would you?
Recall any what?
Any of
Any
your Go ahead, Chance.
any of your comrades' names or names you want to honor this Memorial Day?
Do I know the names of them?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I can. You want the names of my crew?
Your crew, and then if you have any fallen comrades, if there's, today being Memorial Day, we just wanted to honor or allow you to honor any of your fallen comrades that were during the war that you
Well,
were in.
I'd like to honor everybody who was on our
Sure.
crew. I think, other than one person, they have all been. There was 10 men on the crew, and as far as I know, all of them are deceased, with the exception of one. And we lost contact with him years and years ago, but we used to stay in contact with each other, the most of us, and we got together. We got together 1 or 2 times,
Oh wow.
and over a weekend, and we did have one. The bombardier on our crew was killed on a mission, and on another mission, the ball turret gunner was injured, and they ended up putting a plate in his head because part of his skull was gone.
Right.
But he continued to live, and he lived until, I guess it was 8 or 10 years ago that he passed away. And but anyone that's the 2 that were injured on 2 different flights. And
You happen to remember their names, Uncle Art?
yes, the pilot's name was
Babbitt.
Glenn Babbitt.
Glenn Babbitt.
The co-pilot was Bill Sibick. The navigator was Francis McIntyre. The bombardier was Earl Burrell. The engineer was Jim Poole. The radio man was Al Porter. And it so happened we were such good friends. He lived up in Wisconsin, and when we came home, he got married in '46, and he asked me to be his best man at his wedding. So I went up to Wisconsin, was best man at his wedding, and he just died about 3 years ago. He was probably the last one other than myself that was still living. And the tail gunner was John Fernie. He lived in North Carolina. Let's see, Lou Shearer was the waist gunner.
The waist
and
gunner.
myself, and that was the entire crew of 10. So.
And y'all were together all 38 missions. And you said you only lost one comrade, and that was the bombardier. Is that right?
The bombardier. Yes, he was killed on a mission. Had killed from flak, from anti-aircraft flak.
Right.
We were always under the impression, or they told us, that if a shell burst within 35 yards of you, that it could knock out an engine, it could kill a person from 35 yards away, and that's what happened. He was standing between the pilot and the co-pilot. We weren't on a bomb run yet, and he was standing up behind them, in between them, and a shell burst right out, right off of the plane, and killed him instantly. So
Wow.
he didn't know what hit him. So anyway, that was pretty much the way that young man died. And he ended up leaving. When we were in Tucson, he met this young lady, and they fell in love. And while we were overseas, she had a baby, and they live up in Thief River Falls, Minnesota, about as far north as you can get in the United States without going into Canada. So,
right.
Anyway,
so Uncle Art, when I was in Kentucky, you allowed me to. You showed me some of the pictures that you had. Didn't you tell me that from time to time you would have a photographer with you on the plane?
Yeah. Every now and then, depending on where you were. It so happened this particular time we were the lead crew.
Oh.
As you flew in formation, there was usually 10 planes that flew in formation, and we were the lead plane. And I guess in all our 38 missions, we ended up being the lead plane for maybe 25 of them, something like that. It didn't mean anything. It's just that you were the first in line.
Gotcha.
And you had a plane on your left wing and a plane on your right wing, and then the fourth plane would be right down below you, to the rear a little bit, and then there'd be a plane on his wing, right wing, and a plane on his left wing. So it.
Yeah, I have a picture that you gave me, or I took a picture from my phone of some of the pictures that you had at your house, and you said that the photographer had given you those photos from the run that you guys had been on.
Yeah, we had somehow or another, the photographer was able to get pictures that he had taken that particular day.
Wow.
And we weren't supposed to have them, but I don't know. Somebody on the crew talked him into getting some photographs for us, and I have a set of about 8 or 10.
Yep.
They're like 4x6 pictures of planes in flight. Maybe I guess that's what you're talking about, Paul.
Yep. I have the one where you're the lead plane, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 7 planes in the picture. They're obviously behind you. And then you also gave me some pictures of the flak that was going off. That was pretty amazing to see all that flak. And then I also have a picture.
I'm glad I was able to share those with you. I didn't recall that I did, but I'm glad I was able to share them with you.
Yeah. The one that was pretty scary looking was it looked like a B-24 that had been just hit by some flak or maybe shot down. And
Yes,
I have
yes,
that picture as well.
yes,
But,
and you were when you see that happen, you would say, "Come on, fellas, get out, get out of that plane, get out of that plane." And of course, most of the time, the plane wasn't flying on a straight level; it mostly was nose down, and it'd be almost impossible to get out when with the with the flight of the plane going down towards the ground.
right.
It'd be almost impossible to get out. But we were instructed when we went on a mission in the morning before we took off. We were instructed to be sure and give us any information you can about the flight. So,
Right.
uh,
So Chance,
yeah,
you had some questions about the type of runs. What you want to ask them that clearly?
The
well, when you Chance, when you a bomb run, the pop. Excuse me, Chance. Just a minute. when the planes would be on a bomb run, the pilot would turn the plane over to the bombardier, and the bombardier would sight the target, and we would be on a level there you couldn't dodge anything. You had to stay on a straight level, and the bomb run usually lasted from 8 to 12 minutes, and then at the end of the bomb run, you would take and drop your bombs, and then like we would say, "Get the hell out of here, Babbitt," the pilot. "Get us out of here." So, because flak would be coming up, shells would be coming up, and anyway, that was a bomb run would last about 8 to 12 minutes, and that was there wasn't anything you could do. You just sit in your plane because no enemy planes would fly over because they didn't want to be in the flak area either. So they would wait. They would wait until the bomb run was over, and you're out of the flak area, and then they would attack. Well, they would attack before the bomb run, and they would attack after a bomb run. So, but
Chance, were
anyway,
you going to ask them about the types of runs?
About what?
Yeah. So, how many milk runs out of the 38 missions did you have? Or
How many missions? How many missions did we do?
No, Chance, louder.
right. How many milk runs out of the 38 missions did you have?
Milk runs.
How many?
Milk runs.
How many out of the 38 missions did we have? Did we see planes?
Well, a milk run we understood to be.
Oh, a milk run?
Yes.
A milk run, we called a milk run when there was no flak, no enemy planes. You just sit there and dropped your bombs and went home. That's what we call the milk run. And Paul, you'll have to explain to Chance that a milk run. We had one of our planes was named Milk Run, and it had a picture of a lovely lady. And
I've actually seen that photo. I looked it up online. I've seen that milk run photo.
Oh, well, then you can instruct him what a milk run was. I don't want to get too familiar with it.
No worries.
He's still a young man yet.
He's still only 11 years old, so absolutely correct. Hey, but Chance, I thought you were going to ask him about what kind of targets.
Oh, yeah, I would like to know, what was the main target you were after? For example, like supply lines, trains, buildings, airfields. What was usually the main target?
I think I understand you to ask me what the main targets were that we went to.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Well, we got two. We were awarded the 450th Bomb Group that I belonged to, which consisted of about 40 planes. We would put about 40 planes in the air at one time.
Wow.
And we had two missions that were extremely important. And one of them was over a town in Germany that was called Regensburg. It was a ball bearing factory. We attacked that and got a presidential citation for it. And then we also got a presidential citation for, excuse me, for what they called the Ploesti, Ploesti oil fields. They supplied about 50% of the oil for the German armies, and I wasn't on the very first mission to Ploesti, but out of the 40 planes that went over Ploesti and bombed, half of them were lost. So they had quite a few men lost at that particular rate, and one of the reasons was they were flying in so low. Most of the time we would fly like at 25,000 feet. The highest a B-24 could go would be about 28,000 feet. And on this particular mission, the very first time they went to Ploesti oil fields, they were flying like at 250 feet off of the ground. So it was like you standing there with a pistol shooting at the planes overhead.
That's low.
That's why they lost so many planes and so many men. So yeah, out of all the missions that I think the 450th flew about 230 missions, and out of that, in that length of time, which was from like probably September of 43 to April of 45, we lost a total of 1,500 men. So the ratio would have been about like 1 out of 8.
Wow.
1 out of 8 would be the ratio that that would amount to. So anyway, God bless all of their souls.
Absolutely.
They gave the ultimate for their country.
Yeah, they did. Chance?
You okay? Chance, you okay?
Yes, sir, I am. So the next question I would say is, did you shoot down any planes? And if you did, were they German or Italian or others?
Well, we did. Our particular plane got credit for one enemy plane that we shot down, and we don't know who, or it was a combination of people on our plane that shot one plane down. We saw it go down in smoke, and that's the only you heard of the Tuskegee Airmen?
Yes.
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 Well, they flew P-51s, and Tuskegee was in Alabama, and when we'd have briefing in the mornings before we went on the flight, to let the briefers would let us know what we were going to run into as far as enemy planes, as far as flak coming up at you. And when they'd say the cover for you today is the P-51 Tuskegee Airmen, and you could almost see the smiles and the hoorays on the airmen's on our faces, because they were good. They were very, very good. As a matter of fact, they had there was a memorial service last night on KET, I believe, and there was, of course, it wasn't the pictures they had that was on TV for the memorial service was taken back in 2015 because they couldn't have the memorial service like they normally did every year in Washington, D.C. on account of the virus that's running around. So they had 5 of the Tuskegee Airmen that they honored, and those guys were good. You could they'd fly so close to you that you could almost see the whites in their eyes. That they were very, very good, and
brave.
We
brave as well, right?
We gave a sigh of relief when the authorities were telling us that they were going to fly cover for us. They would stay with us. Oh, I guess they would probably stay with us about an hour in enemy territory, and then they'd have to get back to base because they didn't, they could only stay in the air so long with the fuel that they had. So they stayed with us usually for about an hour over the roughest part of the flight, and like I said, they were good. They were very good. So
excellent. Chance.
Yes, sir.
Back to you.
You got another one, Chance?
Yeah, I have a lot. So did you ever run out of ammo? Did you ever run out of ammo? Or
ammunition?
Yes.
Ammunition.
Did we ever run out of it?
You in particular. You in particular.
No, not in particular. No, not. We most of the time an attack would last maybe if a enemy plane got through the cover of the cover of the P-51s that were covering for us. If they got through them, an attack on our particular group would probably last about 5 minutes, and it wasn't a prolonged attack or anything because the enemy planes were getting short on fuel also. So, but no, we never did run out. We had one particular mission. We had after the mission was over, I was what they call the armor on the crew, and I was one of my duties besides being in the turret was to make sure that with the ground crew that all the caliber guns, the 50 caliber guns, were in working condition. And on this particular one, the waist gunner got carried away and burned out the barrel on the gun. And I told the ground crew when we got down that they better check that gun because he couldn't let his fingers off of the trigger. He was in that moment.
Wow.
And when we were having dinner that evening in the mess hall, our pilot walked in the mess hall with a 50 caliber gun on his shoulder, and excuse me, Paul and Chance. It was an enlightening time, and it eased the atmosphere. And he walked in with this gun, and he said, "Wissing, you're in charge. You're in charge of this. How did this happen?" I said, "You'll have to ask Lou because he's the one that fired it." So anyway, it was a light moment and a comical moment when he walked in. So anyway, no, to answer your question, no, we never did run out of ammunition. We ran out of bombs because that's what we were sent to do. We'd have
Sure.
the most bombs we could carry was in a 500-pound range. We'd have 8 of them that we would usually
And you
bomb
drop them
targets with.
you drop all 8 at once, or do you take another run, or depending on how many runs you plan on having, does that dictate how many bombs you drop?
How many what, Paul?
I said, do you drop all 8 bombs at one time?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
In one bomb run, all you would when the bombardier would press the button, it would send a message back to where the bombs were in the bomb bay that bombs away, and all of them they'd drop 4 of them. There'd be 4 on one side and 4 on the other side to balance the weight, and they would all drop down at one time. So, yeah.
Interesting.
So, so my next question is, who's the person you most remember and why?
I didn't hear what Chance asked me,
He
Chance.
said who is your most memorable person that you were in World War II, and why? Who's your most memorable, I guess, friend or person in
Most
World War II?
memorable mission?
Most memorable person, friend or colleague or comrade?
What about a comrade?
Who do you remember the most from World War II?
Who do I remember the most?
Yeah.
Oh, the most I particularly remembered was our particular crew,
Sure.
and then there was four squadrons to an air group, and they would have different allocations on the ground. They would be allotted a different section of the airfield where they would stay, and you were familiar with, like, our particular group was 722. I think 722 was the name of our squadron, and you usually hung around with everybody in your squadron, which would be, each squadron would put up 10 planes at a time, so that meant you were familiar with 10 crews.
So about 100 people. Yeah.
It would be 10 times 10. It would be like 100 people, and you would get very familiar with that group of people. So there'd be about 400 airmen would be on a base, but each squadron would have its own particular area. So you became real friendly with the 3 other groups that were in your squadron, So
Right.
anyway.
Well, Uncle Art, I know, the war was never a great time for anybody, but were there any fun moments, any funny moments that you can recall? Anything like that?
Any funny moments?
Or any moments that were, fun or lighthearted, like you mentioned about, the captain coming in with the pilot coming in with a gun on his. Were there any moments like that?
There's one that I can relate to you.
Sure.
We got R&R, which rest and relaxation, at the Isle of Capri. The Isle of Capri was the Isle of Capri was about 30 miles out into the Mediterranean Ocean, an island from Naples. Naples was was a big naval base, and they were on one side of Naples was on the west side of Italy, and we were on the east side of Italy. Down, if you look at the map, Italy looks like it has a boot, and we were down in that section. Well, anyway, we went to Isla Capri for rest and relaxation for 5 days, and in that time, there was Army nurses that were on the grounds of the Isla Capri at the same time, and we'd meet in the courtyard. They had a big courtyard that would have been about the size of I can relate to you by saying it's about the size of a football field.
Right.
And the nurses would stay like in a monastery, and they had this big field, and we'd play games and just socialize with each other. Well, anyway, they let us know that one thing that they really missed was silk. The ladies, with the one thing they really missed was silk stockings. They didn't have any silk stockings. And so when we got back to base, we found out where we could find some silk stockings on the black, I guess you'd call it the black market. And so we purchased a few pairs of silk stockings, and the next time we were out on a flight, not an enemy flight, but just routine flight, practicing flying and whatever you do, and we got the pilot to fly over the Isla Capri. And we had weighted these. We had about 8 or 10 pairs. I don't know how many pairs we had. It was 8 or 10 pairs of silk stockings, and we wrapped them in a bundle. And as we went over this courtyard, we threw them out and down into the courtyard. So we never did find out if they got them or anything, but we know they hit the courtyard because we couldn't hardly miss 100-yard an area as big as 100 yards. We couldn't hardly miss that. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
that was a memorable time for us. Yes, we enjoyed that. And then there's off of the coastline of the Isla Capri, there was some rocks out in the ocean. They called them the Faraglione rocks. They were 2 rocks that came out of the floor of the Mediterranean, and they rose up about probably 100 foot in the air, and they were about, I guess they were joined down in the water area into the ground. I guess they were part of the same rock.
Right.
And they were spaced about, the 2 rocks were spaced about 75 or 100 feet apart. And the only way to we asked the pilot, Babbitt, let's fly through those rocks. And he said, you got to be kidding. No, we're not kidding. Let's fly through those rocks. And the only way to get through it was you're flying level, and when you get to the rocks, you would have to tilt your plane at like a 45 degree and go through those 2 rocks, which were about, probably about 100 foot apart.
Wow.
The peak of them was about 100 foot apart, and that was a fun time.
He did it. He actually did it. He did it then, huh?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Yes, we did that. The pilot, he finally he says, yeah, we'll do it. So, and the wingspan on a B-24 is about 65 feet, and these rocks were probably 100 or 150 feet apart. So you couldn't fly straight through them. You had to fly at an angle, and that was a fun time. So we did have our moments of fun times. They outlived everything else. So yeah.
So Uncle Art, you mentioned that when you came off of leave, you went to be a part of a B-29 group. Did I understand that right?
Yes. When we came back, we normally when you were assigned to a group, you would do 25 missions, and
Right.
then they would send you home. Well, we got word from people that had finished their missions that came back home, and they were splitting up the crews and sending them to B-29s. So we had an opportunity to, if we'd sign up for more missions, we could, when we finished those second set of missions, we could go to B-29 training as a crew.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to do that. So the pilot asked us, we'd take a vote on it. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. We'll adhere to whatever the group wants. So all of us decided that if we're going to go to the Pacific anyways and go in B-29s, we want to do it as a cruise. So that's why we did 38 missions instead of 25.
So out of the 38 missions, and 25 were on the B-24, the other 14 missions, I guess, were on a B-29?
No, those.
Oh.
All our missions were on the B-24s.
Okay.
The B-20, after we signed up to do 25 more,
I see.
which took us to 38, we would be assigned to B-29s. We did not do 25 missions, and they had no B-29s. There was no B-29s at that time in the German warfare. There was the B-29s were strictly assigned to the Pacific because they were able to do longer flights. They were able to carry more fuel. So, and most of the flights in the Pacific would have been very long flights. So
sure.
Our flights, usually the most we ever flew was 10 hours.
10 hours.
That was 10 hours from the time you took off to the time you came back and landed. And B-29s, I don't know how many hours they could stay in the air, but probably 15 or something like that. So, right. And there was no reason to have them in Germany because the B-24s and the B-17s had enough fuel to do what had to be done in Germany, you know.
Gotcha. So you only fought in the European campaign, not the Pacific. Is that correct?
We never did go to the Pacific. As close to the Pacific we got is Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when we trained on a B-29, and we trained on a 29 for about, let's see, we came home and got 30-day furlough in June, and when we went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it was probably a month later. Well, it was a month later, so we were only there about 6 weeks training when they dropped the big bombs in Tokyo, you know.
Tokyo, yeah.
Yeah.
Were you the nose gunner on the B-29 as well?
I would have been a nose gunner. Yeah, you would have kept the same station.
Gotcha.
That you had, and of course, a B-29 was a luxury plane because you didn't have to have you didn't have to have oxygen. The plane was pressurized. You didn't have to wear a heat suit like you did on the B24s. You had to have a heat suit. You'd have a one piece suit from your shoulders down to your ankles, and would have wires running through it, and the wires would be hooked up to the plane heating system, and that's what kept you warm, because at 25,000 feet the temperature was about 35 below zero.
Wow.
So
that sounds cool.
You couldn't live in something like that for any length of time without a heat suit. So
What was your turret that you were in the B24? Was it comfortable at all? If that's even
was it
possible.
comfortable?
Yeah, I mean, what was it like? What was it like being in as a nose gunner in the front of that plane?
Well, one thing about being in the nose, I got to see everything before everybody else.
Sure.
I,
Could you relay to the pilot and the crew, hey, we got such and such coming? Was that part of your job, was to relay? Was part of your job to relay what you saw to the pilot and crew?
No.
No?
I just had a little humor out of that, Paul.
Oh.
That no, the only time that I sometimes when you'd be on a bomb run, you would not have a bombardier with you for some particular reason. Maybe he was sick or whatever. And each plane, as long as the lead plane had a bombardier, and the bombardier was over the target, and you're in the lead plane, and he would press the button and it'd be bombs away. Well, a lot of times the target that you had wasn't centralized it had to be, you didn't have to be real accurate with dropping the bombs. So when you didn't have a bombardier with you, the nose gunner, when he'd see the planes up in the front of him, if you weren't the lead plane, which at this particular time we were not the lead plane, we didn't have a bombardier because he had been killed on the mission before. When the lead plane dropped its bombs and you saw them come out of the bomb bay, then I released the bombs one time. I pressed the button and released the bombs one time out of all the missions that we made, because we always had a bombardier with us.
Wow.
And the pattern that the bombs laid down on the ground didn't have to be real exact. It was just a matter of whatever the target was. So that's the way that happened. So I can't think of anything else, Paul, as far as all your question was, did I relate to the pilot and the co-pilot? No, I did not. I did not do any of that, because he could see as well as I could. I just happened to be about 10 foot closer to the target than he was.
Gotcha.
Well,
being way up in the nose,
Yep.
Well,
What else you got, Chance?
Well, I guess I would. What will something be that you'll never forget?
What, that I'll never forget?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'll never forget one mission. We came back. We were all shot up pretty bad, and we didn't out of the 4 engine, 2 of them were gone, and we were running low on fuel, and we got back to our base airport, our base field, and the landing gear, one landing gear came down, and the second one did not come down. We tried manually. Our hydraulic system was pretty much shot up, and we tried manually to let the one of the wheels down, and it wouldn't go down. And we tried to get the one that was down. We tried to get it back up, and we couldn't get it back up. So we knew we were in trouble. And the pilot asked us, he says, when we get over the airfield, do you all want to bail out and parachute out, or do you want to ride it down? And everybody says, we don't want to parachute out. Let's ride it down, Babbitt. You can do it. And so we emptied as much of the gas that we could in case we would really crash, and so that it would be less fire. And we came down, and he landed on that one gear. I think the gear was on the as you're the pilot on the plane, the gear on the right. So I think it's the gear on the right. So we landed a B24 had to land at about 125, 130 miles an hour. Is what it was. When it would touch down, you would have to be at that airspeed. You couldn't, like a B-17. The B-17 was another 4-engine bomber, and it could land at about 90 miles an hour. And anyway, he held the plane straight for I don't know how many yards, and then it just crashed and spun around and damaged the plane where it couldn't be flown again. But we were able to, all of us were able to get out without any problems at all. So that was probably one of the most memorable times that we had as far as a mission went. So,
and did you always did you always have the same plane for the most part? And did you name it?
No, you did not have the same plane, Paul, due to the fact that there was only so many planes on the field.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'd be so shot up that they would be garbage as far as flight time goes, and you'd have to wait until new planes were ferried in from England. They would ferry planes over from England and to our base, and so very seldom did you have, probably out of all the missions we did, we probably flew one plane maybe 8 or 10 times at the most.
Wow.
So you did a lot of we just didn't. You just flew whatever was available, whatever the ground crew. Sometimes they'd work through the night to get a plane ready for the next mission. But no, we never did. We had all these. Each group had at least 40 planes. Excuse me, Paul. Yep. Chance. So, no, that to answer your question, no, we did not.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, Uncle Art, we've kept you on this phone call for over an hour now, and I think Chance, you answered a lot of the questions that he was going to ask for the most part, right, Chance?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that I could help you somewhat. Are you doing a project for school or something, Chance?
Chance,
no.
Why don't you tell him a little bit about how you got so interested in World War II?
Well, the whole thing that I went into World War II was one night when I was watching a movie with my dad, and it was a movie about this soldier named Desmond Doss. Do you know him?
Did you hear that, Uncle Art?
I didn't hear all of what he asked me.
Let me repeat it, Chance. It might be easier, right? So
Yeah.
Chance and I would watch movies together, and there was a particular one about a soldier in World War II named Desmond Doss. Does that name ring a bell to you at all?
What was his name?
Desmond Doss.
Spell it, Paul.
Desmond is his first name, Desmond, and his last name is Doss, Doss. He was a medic, an army medic.
He was a medic?
Yes.
I see. Okay.
What? So they did go ahead.
He was on the ground.
Yes, he was an army medic. He fought in the Pacific.
Okay.
He saved about 75 people. There
Oh,
was
I remember. Yeah, I just watched that movie not too long ago.
Hacksaw
Yeah.
Ridge, right?
Yeah, he refused to carry a gun.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. It hadn't been but a month or so ago that I saw it. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
So
and he scaled them down the ropes and that down the mountainside.
right. Where was
That
that
was
at, Chance? Where was that fought at?
Okinawa. It was
Okinawa.
at Okinawa.
Yeah.
Okinawa.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I didn't remember that, but I do remember seeing it. Yeah.
So
You can
so
get
so
you can get
Chance,
pretty interested in warfare, can't you, Chance?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can, sir.
Well, I hope I was able to enlighten you somewhat, and I appreciate you wanting to, well, think of us as World War II, and today is like they said, 75 years ago. That's a long time ago. So you got a lot of life to live for you, Chance. And I hope you and your family get through this virus. Okay, y'all haven't been bothered with it any, have you?
we've been very fortunate, and we've been very safe and careful, for sure. Yes, we've been
Yeah,
careful.
we've been the same thing here at home.
Right.
Everybody's been fortunate. We haven't had anyone that's been sick or anything yet. So,
That's good.
eh, yeah,
Yeah.
So
So
anyway, are
Chance,
y'all have any special plans for today?
no,
Other than
today our special time was to just to call you. Yeah, as you know, we've been talking about this for over a year now. Chance and I really wanted to come to Kentucky and see you in person, and it just hasn't happened. And so I
well,
figured, yeah,
maybe someday it will, Chance, and but I appreciate you wanting to talk with me, son.
the,
I hope I enlightened you a little bit, and you just grow up to be like your father and your mother, and just grow up and take care of each other. And how many sisters and brothers do you have? There's
I
Is there 3 children in your family?
yep, you nailed it. How many we got, Chance? How many siblings you got?
2.
You know, Chance, I have a son that was about 2 years younger than your father, and we came out to visit your dad when he was a little fella. I think you might have been about 12 years old, and Chris was about 10.
Right?
And from what I remember, y'all had a pretty good couple days together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was nice coming when we were there, I don't know, 5 6 months ago. Matt and I were there. We got to visit with Chris, and um
Uh huh.
and Jay and Tina and all the rest of them. It was such a great time to hang out with you guys because I hadn't seen you guys in 2 decades.
Well,
So
I'm just sorry we couldn't have been closer
yeah,
to see each other a little bit more often. But
sure, yeah,
that's what life deals us. So we have to run with it the best we can.
yeah. Well,
And you
Chance,
do the same thing.
yeah,
You
Chance, you
do
have
the
any?
same. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say give Chance give Chance a chance to give you any closing comments. Chance.
Um, well, thank you so much for fighting for our freedoms for their freedoms for the war. I'm so glad you came home alive in one piece and not um, bucket. Um, I'm sorry you lost some very good friends. So thank you, Uncle Art, for allowing me to talk with you and ask
Oh,
you
you're quite
questions.
welcome, Chance. And like I said, you help take care of your family the older you get, okay?
Yes, sir.
And y'all be safe and stay healthy and just live within each other. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Uncle
right.
Art. You have a great
Thank
day,
you.
Oh,
rest of your day.
I
God
enjoyed it
bless
very
you.
much, son. I'm going out to the cemetery and put some flowers out. So I guess Carol will go with me. So I'll do that this afternoon. So anyway, y'all take care of yourself and give my love to everybody that you're in contact with.
I will do
It's
that.
been enjoyable, Paul.
Yeah. You
Chance,
too.
you take care.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love
Love you.
y'all.
Love you too.
Bye.
Take
Love you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.